The iPad Pro is getting the biggest change in 4 years, with a brand new design, a variety of colors, MagSafe, with the ability to charge your AirPods from the back of it, and most importantly, we're also getting major updates in terms of the software. So here's a recap of everything we know, as well as why the 2022 iPad Pro will be awesome. And speaking of awesome, if you're looking for some awesome Apple Watch bands, look no further than BandWerk, our sponsor for this video, and their new art line collection. They feature art by the world-famous Jean-Michel Basquiat, with 3 pieces to choose from: the panel of experts for a darker vibe, the horn players for a more stylish vibe, and my favorite, the beat bop for the super clean white look. Check out BandWerk by using the link below. And now, back to the video. The main new thing about this new iPad Pro is the redesign. The last 3 generations of Pro models all use the same chassis, with even the iPad Air and the iPad Mini taking a big inspiration from that. But it is time for us to finally get something new. And according to Mark Gurman and Debbie Wu, Apple has been testing a fully redesigned iPad Pro with a glass back for 2022. This would be a major departure from the current fully aluminum model. Glass, of course, is less durable than aluminum, so it might not seem like the best choice for a tablet, but a glass back does have its own advantages. For example, you can give glass far more unique colors, from crazy rainbow-like radiance to more subtle ones like we did in our concept. We gave the iPad Pro the same color combos as the new M1 iMacs, with a darker aluminum frame and then a lighter frosted glass back. And I honestly think that this design looks far more premium than the current model, especially the one that comes in white or black. Matte Black iPad Pro, sign me in. And even though we haven't had any leaks on this, I do think that it makes a lot of sense for Apple to also thin out the bezels a bit, as this is a new generation of iPad Pros, so we actually show this in our concept. But having a glass back doesn't just mean looks, it also means functionality, as it could enable wireless charging, which seems weird to have on a tablet as traditional vertical chargers won't work. And if you are to use some of these flat wireless chargers, the size difference is gonna make it pretty difficult. But that's not the point, as Apple's not even thinking of traditional wireless charging, they're thinking about MagSafe. Adding MagSafe to the iPad would further expand Apple's MagSafe ecosystem, an ecosystem that includes stands such as this 3-in-1 one from Belkin. I think that such a stand would be ideal for the iPad. You could have a keyboard and a mouse underneath it, and then easily switch from landscape to portrait mode and so on, all whilst charging the iPad. And when you think about it, having MagSafe on the iPad would mean that the iPhone and the iPad would have a unified charging system once again. Too bad the Mac is still on USB-C. But regardless, the problem with MagSafe is that it is slow. It is considerably slower than wire charging. According to 95Mac, Apple will solve this by allowing faster MagSafe speeds than the iPhone. But even then, it won't match wire charging. 95Mac also claims that Apple scrapped this glassback iPad Pro design due to durability concerns, and they're now trying out the design where they're using a glass Apple logo to enable wireless charging. Regardless of what they do, 2 things are certainly coming: wireless charging and a redesign. We've also seen reports that the iPad Pro would support reverse wireless charging, meaning that you could just place your AirPods or even your iPhone on the back of it to automatically charge them. This is so awesome, especially on a large battery device such as an iPad. You'll be able to charge your other Apple devices a number of times before your iPad dies. The next big change is that M2 chip. And realistically, I don't really care that much about the M2 being in the iPad. This M1 is already more than fast enough, and until iPadOS really starts utilizing the M1 to its fullest, I don't think there's a need for anything better. But that doesn't really matter, as Apple will be adding the M2 chip regardless. And the biggest improvements here would be the 2 extra GPU cores for up to 25% better GPU performance, and alongside that, some more power optimizations. Still, don't expect anything more than the current 10-hour battery. This sums up the confirmed hardware changes. Now, we could of course see an upgraded camera on the back with the addition of a telephoto module to match the Pro models of the iPhone. But this is how we rendered our concept, although personally, I don't think that Apple should waste their resources in making the iPad's camera any better, as it is already good enough for an iPad. But the biggest iPad Pro change might not even be in terms of its hardware, but in terms of its software. We already know that Apple is planning a major overhaul to multitasking and a revamped look for notifications. And since Apple has already made some pretty big changes to multitasking in iPadOS 15 with those visual indicators for split screen and the more intuitive drag and drop for split screen windows, I don't really see what Apple could do to make multitasking even better. Unless, of course, they also allow us to have resizable app windows. This would make the iPad a million times more usable. The way I see it is something similar to how the slide over window looks now, now, but of course with the ability to resize it. The only issue here would be the home screen, which would totally get hidden if you were to have a bunch of these floating windows, although I am sure that Apple can come up with some sort of gesture-based solution for this. I do still think that the best solution to all of the iPad's problems is Apple adding a Pro mode similar to Samsung's DeX. This won't just boot into macOS, but rather trigger this more usable mode on the iPad Pro that could automatically be enabled once you connect it to the Magic Keyboard. And on this, we have some breaking news. First of all, we've had references in iPadOS that point towards a smarter way of dealing with app windows. So apparently Apple is experimenting with a way of shrinking down the apps, aka resizing them, once you connect the iPad to a keyboard. Not only that, but this could be an exclusive feature to M1 iPads. So that means the iPad Pro 2021 and the iPad Air 2022. On top of this, patently Apple has just discovered a new patent that Apple has just applied for that shows us an iPad that seems to boot into macOS, or at least something that looks like macOS a lot, when connected to the keyboard. Now, this could also be a future MacBook with a detachable screen, sort of like Microsoft Surface Book Pro. Regardless of whether this is a future iPad or a future MacBook, one thing's for sure. Apple is looking at merging these two different user bases. And I generally think that a Magic Keyboard is what splits the iPad into these two user bases. The ones who don't have a keyboard and mostly use the iPad for browsing and consuming content, and the ones who do use a keyboard and a trackpad and try to replicate a macOS experience. For the first group of people, this is where the iPad shines. As for browsing and viewing content, it is miles better than a Mac. But once you connect the keyboard and the mouse, that is when you want your iPad to be able to do more. Hence the Pro mode that I was referring to. And Mark Gurman seems to feel the same here. And I do feel like Apple's own employees are very divided here too. Some want to make the iPad appeal to the general public, while some want to make it more usable for pros. Remember those leaks that Apple was working on Xcode and Final Cut for the iPad? I'm hoping that iPadOS 16 will indeed make that happen, as at the moment, I believe that Apple is seeing the iPad more of like a Mac accessory. The fact that we got features such as universal control, which allows you to use your Mac's keyboard and trackpad directly on the iPad, or how you can use your iPad as a secondary monitor for your Mac with Sidecar, or how you can use the Apple Pencil on the iPad to sign documents directly on your Mac. All of this is telling me that Apple is trying to sell more iPads to Mac users. In fact, my main use case for my very own iPad is just this, a monitor and accessory for my MacBook when I travel, and it's been great for that. But I do believe that it deserves to be way more than just this. So what do you use your iPad for? Do you use it as an independent device or as a Mac accessory? And speaking of the Mac, if you want to learn how to overclock your Mac's display, I actually did a video just on that on our brand new Shorts channel, ZONEofTECH Shorts. So yeah, do subscribe if you want to see more cool Shorts tech videos, and for longer and more detailed tech videos, definitely subscribe to the main channel. I'm Daniel, this is ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH signing out. Cheers.